Also about mimer. You did chalitza and then mimer. Now we're going to have a whole series of mishnayos like this, where we're talking, as the Mishnah will say at some point, it makes no difference how many Yevamos you're talking about. You did a sequence of events, which of course you shouldn't have done. And the question is, what happens when you have all these possible sequences? So you did chalitza to, let's say, to one of them. But also about mimer, and you did mimer to the same one, right? Nos and get, then he gave a get either to her or to another one. Baal, and then bia to either to her or another one. Oh, or Baal. The first he did was bia. Was a mimer, and the next he did was a mimer. Not necessarily the same one, could be two different ones, right? Nasam get, then he gave a get, the cholatz, and then he did chalitza afterwards. So this is the general principle. This is the fundamental concept. Ein achar chalitza klum. Once you do chalitza, nothing after chalitza counts anymore. Now before you do chalitza, of course, things do count. But the chalitza cuts it off. Once the chalitza, it's one of the Yevamos. No matter what you do to any of the other ones afterwards, it's meaningless. So chalitza is an absolute cutoff point. Okay? So enachar chalitza krum. Echad Yevama achas v'achas shtei Yevamos. That's true whether there's one or more Yevamos. After chalitza, there's no additional consideration to be had. Now, Ava Pisha Amru, even though they said in chalitza and chalitza, there's no chalitza subsequent to chalitza. Ava Bia Shalar chalitza post lasim minakuna. But if you had bia after chalitza, that does cause her to lose her status as suitable for kahuna. So it says Gemara, below kach ain't psul minakuna. Isn't she already psul minakuna? Right? She's a chalutza. Psul miloch b'truma rather means that she can't even go back to her father's house to eat truma. Why? Because the bia the bia with the person who was no longer suited for her because he had already committed chalitz, performed chalitz on her, is a bia psula. That's a bia to somebody who's opposite to her, right? It makes her zona. It gives,
even though she's an onus.
Yeah, even though she's an onus, that doesn't do any good in terms of the kedusha of kahuna. Onus makes no. The onus or also makes no difference. So that says Gemara. I don't understand. Says Gemara. Haba chalutza so chalutza psula milecha b'truma. If somebody's related with his chalutza, is she no longer fit to eat truma? Now, the Carbonator explains this, I assume based on the Bavli, although I have no recollection of this, not having learned Yevamos in the Bavli more than once. But he says that the Gemara's premise on the Gemara's question is based on the premise that when a woman is to be defined as psula kuna, it's because she had relations with an ish zar, somebody who is strange to her, either because he's also to her because he's a mamzer or a goy, or he's also to her because he's a forbidden arayas. So that's an ish zar. So this guy who committed chalitza on her, performed chalitza on her, he's not a zar. He's not a stranger, right? He once had an affinity with her.
Yeah, the affinity's gone. He's brother.
But the Gemara is going to be that even after chalitza, there's no the prohibition of the relationship between the chalutza and chalutza is of diminished level because they once had an affinity. In other words, he's not allowed to marry. He's not allowed to marry her, but it's not the same prohibition as a regular eshesach. Okay, so it says it's about a case where the brothers of the chalutza had relations with the now chalutza, and therefore it's a problem. So says the Gemara, Nicha command Amar hu eino chayv al chalutza v'achi chayav min chalutza. That makes sense according to Peter's oath that he's not chayv on the chalutza, but the brothers are chayv on the chalutza. Okay, so according to that opinion, obviously it makes sense to say that the brothers who have relations with her, since they are chayav kares for having relations with her, because they're still eisha sachvis v'her, so if they render unfit kuna, right? So however, command Amar ben hu ben achim enchem achlutza. According to Pilach shows that both neither he nor the brother are not chayav on the chalutza; they are exempted to have relations with chalutza. So that's case she's no longer a zor, neither vis-a-vis the cholates nor vis-a-vis any of the other brothers, right? So what renders her unfit to rakuna? So it says more elok sheba ala tzorah. It's about where the cholates had relations with a co-wife. So he did chalutz on one, and then he had chalitz on one, and then he had relations with her co-wife. So then that's taka because of Eishes Achiv. Because although he had some affinity to the chalutza by having performed chalutza on her, but he never had affinity to the co-wife.
So why does that make her also to eat truma if the co-wife is the one that?
No, it makes the co-wife also eat truma. That's what we're saying. No, we're talking about we're actually changing the terms of the case, right? Originally we talked about the chalitza. So when it says bialach chalitza post losa minakuna, the be after chalitza when it's unfit for kuna, that's what was referring to the woman who received chalitza herself. But now we're rejecting and saying it's referring to a co-wife. And if you had bia with her out of the co-wife after having given chalitza to the co-wife, so then that renders the bia, it renders the tzara unfit for kahuna, even to eat truma. So it says the Gemara again, another kasha. This nichol, that makes sense. Everybody agrees that the person who forms chalitza, if he has relations with a co-wife, he's liable because of Eishes. But like the Mishnah says, he's not liable lo lachutza v'lo tzara. He's exempt both from the person, from the woman, from the wife, upon which is the chalitza, and from the co-wife as well. So if that's the case, how is he render even her? He seems not to be able to render her unfit for truma. Elok shebo achin oleh. So he must be talking about a case where one of the brothers had relations with the co-wife. We're really reaching the bottom of the barrel, right?
Circles.
Right. And again, that's going to be that both he and the brothers, even though they're not chayav on the chalutza, they are chayav on the Torah, on the co-wife. But Ram Command Amar, but opinion told Beinu Ben Achi, and both he and the brothers, they're not chayav lo chalutza lo Torah. He don't chalutza non the Torah. So who's it going like when it says that a bia after chalitza renders her unfit? Right? Can't be going on the co-wife because it's not a bia zor even on the co-wife. So Rabbi Akiva. So Rabbi Akiva Omer yesh mamzer b'chalutza. He holds that there's taka mamzeres if you have relations with your chalutza because her prohibition is a lav, and a lav is just as good as a issa, which a regular lav is just good as a issa which has chores attached to it, and therefore creates mamzeres, and therefore the creating mamzeres is symptomatic of a bia of relations which makes the woman unfit to go back and eat truma.
This is true for the wife and for the tzara?
Only the person who had, it's true about both. Yeah. And the correlates, whichever one you had bia with, that's when becomes unfit for trukuna. Rabbi Yosef said he had another answer. Dipater sheyivama kohen uvaleh v'chila. There's about a case where the Yavam himself was a kohen, and he's forbidden to have relations with a grusha and a chalutza. And if a Yavam, a kohen who's forbidden to have relations with a grusha chalutza, has relations with a grusha or chalutza, so then, of course, you have a problem of chalala. It's an interesting thing. It's kind of ironic when a kohen has relations with a grusha. So even though she could eat truma till now, if she was a bas kohen, but now that she has relations with the kohen, it makes her unfit to eat truma herself. Even though he didn't get divorced, right now, of course, once he gets divorced, he has to first get divorced. But yes, those are the breaks. Okay, so it says more, not okay, but that's the way it is. So that's okay. Sorry about where the oven was a kohen and he had a relation with her and he was machal her, and then she can no longer eat truma. Okay, getting back to the Mishnah. Nasan get b'chala. So first you gave again, and then you did chalitza. Ein achar chalitza klum. After chalitza, there's nothing else. Lo kvar tanina. Didn't we already learn ein achar chalitza klum? Don't we already know that there's nothing after chalitza? So it says the Gemara was learned previously in the Masechta begin in the parak begin nitnina de basra, because he wanted to say what came afterwards in the Mishnah. It says echad yavam ve'echad sheivam. This is true whether we're dealing with one yavam or two yavam. So therefore, we wanted to say stress that ein achar chalitza klum in order to say this is true no matter how many Yevamos there are, that was a new factor which was introduced in our Mishnah. So it says the Gemara, Ilam Mekadesh Chalutza, so I don't understand. If somebody has Mekadesh his Chalutza, Shema is do we say, now here all the Pashim throw in the word lo. Shema lo tafsu b'kiddushin, does the marriage not work? In other words, why achar chalitza? Why is it lachar chalitza? Why ain't lachar chalitza klum? Even after chalitza, there should be a possibility of tampering, of damaging, of doing bad. Why? Because the chalitza doesn't end all possibility of marriage between the yavam and the chalutza. Between the chalutza and the chalutza, they can't get married. It's a prohibited marriage, like a kohen and a grusha. No, it's not a rice, because then it wouldn't work. I mean, it isn't a rice, but not on the level of a kares. It's a rice of a lav. No, not anymore.
After the chalitza, she's still
she's not Eshes Hach on the capital crime level, though. So chalitza really only drives it down to a lav, not to drives it up to a lav, but not all the way up to chiyuv kares.
Except for Rabbi Akiva, he would hold.
Yeah, according to Rabbi Akiva. But amen. But our question is not according to Rabbi Akiva, right? So ilam kayesh chalutza shema lo tavsa b'kedushin, does marriage not work? So how come, if that's the case, after chalitza is there nothing else, right? So it says mati pater. So resolve it like this: Ik Rebbe Shalomidas. Now here it's a very interesting answer, a little bit of a difficult answer, but it says Ik Rebbe Shalomidas Satayva, where after the chalitza, the case I mentioned was after chalitza, you did mimer, okay? And we said that mimer doesn't count. So either that mimer is talking about where you did it. No, you didn't do mimer. You did kedusha mimer. 1 second. Yeah, you did mimer. So you did mimer, which is actually the same thing theoretically as kedusha. So here it's coming to tell us Chiddush Ik Rebbe Shalol Das. Even though Rebbe holds on Gimel Amud Aleph that mimer works, we didn't see this yet ever, but he holds Rebbe works even Shalom Midas. If you do mimer on a woman who's a Yevama and she had no intention to be married to you, she thought it was all a joke, or she had no idea what you were saying, the mumbo jumbo you said, it still works according to Rebbe. And the reason I told you, even though marriage doesn't work unless the woman knows precisely what she's doing and she consciously enters into the marriage. But by mimer, it holds it's not that because the mimer is derived from the bia. Just like the bia of Yevama could be even shlomidaita, even without her awareness of what's going on. So too the mimer could be the same thing. So therefore, according to Rebbe, we're saying that after you did chalitza, right, it's true that marriage might work. You can marry your chalutza, but mimer you can't do because mimer, when you could even do mimer if it was mimer midas, right? It was intentional mimer, but you can't do unintentional mimer, and that's the Mishnah is coming to say that in achar chalitza klum. The same level of mimer which normally does work by Yevama, which is mimer shlomidas, does not work after the chalitza. Okay, so that's saying Rebbe shlo das, by mimer shlo das, and that's why it doesn't work after chalitza. Could even go a guy like Rabbanan, who mimer never works shlo das. And what are we talking about here? If a person married his chalutza after chalitza, then of course I'd agree that it works. But here we're talking about where a person tried to do mimer on his chalutza after chalitza, and that's what doesn't work. So according to Rabbi, the reason why it's not a valid kiddushin ceremony, even if it doesn't work as mimer, is because it did shlomi daito, right? According to Rabbanan, the reason why it doesn't work is because obviously they can't answer because it's shlomi daito, because anyway mimer doesn't work shlomi daito. Whether they would answer, as the Gemara says here, so we're talking about a case where you dafka want to do a mimer after chalitza, and a mimer after chalitza doesn't work in any way, shape, or form.
Kedushin does work.
Yeah, Kedushin does work, right? It's only the Maimer that doesn't, okay? That's a Miskab, and because there's Maimer Yevimto, Veinu Yevimto, and it's no longer Yevamos, so therefore Maimer can't work after Chalitza.
Gemara is not introducing muddying the waters by talking about the Machlokas Rav and Shmuel about this Maimer. Is it there's a Machlokas about Maimer, whether it's
yeah, no, they're not going to. It's Rabban and Rabbi Shimon. They're not going to introduce it here. No, they're not.
that really
really makes yeah, that's true. All right, what Rava said. Vitani Kane, we learned in a brisa like this. This is the machlokas which are just cited. Top of Lam Gilva. Maimer koine ben l'das ben shlom l'das. Maimer works both intentionally and unintentionally. Divrei Rebbe. Now, intentionally and unintentionally, the Ridbaz points out, does not mean against her will. You can't coerce a woman to become a Yevamo or become a Yevama, but you can seduce her, and she doesn't know what's going on. So even if she thinks it's extramarital, it still becomes marital, and the marriage takes effect. Okay. V'tani kena Maimer could have been Midas to Shlo. Midas and Sedi is true about Maimer because it's from Bia. The Divrei Rebbe. Chachor Rebbe are going to say ain't koine elo das. It's different. Maimer works. Bia works even Shlo Midas, but Maimer, which is a kinnik, can only work with das. Moderate kedushin she'enu koine elo das. Rebbe concedes by kedushin, by marriages, she'enu koine elo das, real marriages that they need das. My time of the Rebbe. What's the logic Rebbe by Yibum? So the logic by Yibum is Bia koine Maimer koine. Bia is a kinyan, Maimer is a kinyan. Ma Bia koine ben midas from Shalom midas, just like Bia is a kinyan, both intentionally and unintentionally by Yibum, right? If I'm Maimer koine ben midas ben Shalom midas, so to Maimer works whether it is intentional or not. Or ben midas kach ben Shalom midas kach. Who Oimer? Oh no, I skipped. Sorry, ben midas ben Shalom midas. Now Ukama asks Umar, what about this? Ukama the Rebbe Oimer ha-Maimer koine ben midas ben Shalom midas. So the Rebbe says Maimer works whether it's intentional or unintentional. Kach Oimer ha-get poiter ben midas ben Shalom midas. Does he say a get also works whether you have das for the get to work or not? Which is kind of strange, but I guess, if you create it again and you gave it, maybe without das it works. So it says more no v'lama. Why would you say there's a comparison? There is no comparison. Rabbi Oimer Maimer koine. Rabbi says Maimer works ben das ben shlomi das, whether it's intentional or not. She came bia, because that's true about bia. The next word begado is superfluous, but bia by consenting adults koine ben das ben shlomi das. It works also the das or shlomi das, right? However, if Yiftar Beget was no comparison to get, you want to say the get works Shalomi Das. The Chalitza no Bodes Midas. Chalitza requires Das. How can you say get doesn't require Das? So even more severe procedure, get should require as much, if not more Das than the Chalitza. So actually the woman doesn't have to agree to receive a get. See, a woman that can be compelled to accept a get, so according to Rabbeinu Gershom came along and changed it. But a woman could be compelled to accept a get, but it has to be midaita. She has to be aware of what she's doing. Okay, we learn that from Chalitza.
Well, she has to be kona.
Right, but that's not true by Maimer according to Rebbe. That's not true by Bia, even according to Rabbana. There she doesn't have to be das to be acquired with the Bia. Okay, it just happens. Okay, so so in one case we always require das, right? The question, that's what comes out. We always require das. The question is whether it works even by korcho, as long as you have a das, even when it's compelled, as long as there's intent. That's the question here. Okay?
So you have to know what you're getting into, but you don't have to know what you're getting into, but you have to know what you're getting out.
In some of these cases, right. Okay? Says Mr. further. Beis Tzad Maimer Bezu. How do you have a case of two mamoros, or two mamorim? Shnei gitin v'chalitza. If you have two gittin and you have a chalitza, Maimer Bazu, and then you had the Maimer to one, Ubalazun had beer with the others. So now, the second one, this is really obviously a jerk, right? Then Shnei gitin chalitza. He two gittin, right? because you did mimer with one and mimer the other. So, and then you gave, although you gave, I'm so trying to punctuate this mission right now. Okay, again. Let me start from the beginning again. Bezitzad, how does this work? Also, mimer Brazil. If you did mimer to each one, so shnei gittin, you need 2 gittin, 1 for each mimer, right? But chalitza, you need a chalitza as well. Mimer Brazil, Balzu. First you did a mimer, and then you did bia afterwards, right? So shnei gittim here too, you need 2 gittim, chalitza, 1 git chalitza. Mimer Brazil, v'get Brazil. Did mimer to one and gave a get to the other one, right? Without having married her, he just gave her a get. So tzricha get, she needs a get for the one who had mimer, and the chalitza and chalitza to any other one, any of them. Mimer bezu v'cholatz lezu. If you did mimer to one and did chalitza to the other, a rishona tzricha get, you have to be cholatz. You have to again require the first one to do a get, in order to exempt the. In order to make her free to marry Lashuk.
Obviously, Yerushalmi, this was worth covering.
Yeah, the Yerushalmi just glosses over this. Get Lazu. You gave a get to each one. So Tzuchim and Chalitza still need Chalitza. Obviously, they didn't get Chalitza is the main thing. Get is kind of get might not even work at all. Get Lazu, Bal Lazu, they gave a get for one and did Bia to the other. Tzricha get. The chalitza need 1 get for the one who got bia, because the bia was possible because it was after a get, right? And need chalitza as well. It's one of the 2. Get lazu mimer lazu. They get for one and mimer to the other. So you could get chalitza there too. You need a get and a chalitza. And the get lazu v'chol do. They gave a get to one, and the chalitza to the other. And achar chalitza klum. Once they did chalitza, so you don't know reason to go back and give another get. Did get and then chalitza, so you're going to go back and give a second get. And achar chalitza klum. You don't do that. Okay? I'll tie to the Rebbe. Now, getting back to the Rebbe Rabbanan issue. The truth is, maybe the Super Shnai should have been combined. I think Carbonated does that in his parish. I'll tie to Rebbe Ma'u Mamorishim Maimer Leben Teisha. It's a very cool question. You have to give it to the Yerushalmi. We're coming up with this one. The bia of a 9-year-old is a valid bia. At this stage of the Yerushalmi, it seems even to be the right, so the Yerushalmi is going to renege on this, and it can actually acquire yibum. It can make yibum. So what about if a cotton goes and does mimer on his yivama? According to opinions that mimer has an effect. So what's the status of the yivama now? Now normally you would say, well, mimer is a form of marriage. Marriage requires ben das, right? An adult, but maybe learn it out altogether from bia. Just like bia shalomi das, maybe the mimer is shalomi das. After all, that's what Rebbe said. He said, don't have to have das, so maybe even a non-bar das. Maybe not just the cheftza, so to speak, but the gavra. So this is Maldaita Rebbe Ma'ul Mamoro. Ma'ul Mamoro, what's the status of mimer? Shem mimer lebentation, the 9-year-old kid, shem mimer. Bia of an adult completes the process of evil. Mamoro koinel mishayer, and his mimer does a quasi kinyan. Bias cotton, the bia of a child, gomeres, it completes. Mamoro koinel mishayer. His mimer should also be koinen and whatever kinyan makes, the quasi kinyan, right? Ma ben biasel mamoro. Was there any difference between his bia and his mimer? So it says more of is the boy Maimar, Maimar of Morishal Gadol, Morishal Gadol, what's the difference between the Maimar of a Gadol and Maimar of a cotton? The Chorbo should work, Baal Karcho. Now actually the Ridbaz says that it's to be read as a statement, not as a taunt. And it says what it means to say is that there's a difference between Bia and Maimar, right? Bia works by a cotton, mimer does not work by a cotton.
Well, that would make sense because mimer requires das, and the 9-year-olds are not a bar das.
It makes sense, but you understand the
it's a physical thing which doesn't require das.
But you understand the havamina.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's what the Ridbaz reads it though. You're right. So Mamor is a rhetorical question. Certainly, there's a lot between bia and mimer. It's by Mamor shall go and Mamor shall go, and there certainly is a difference between a mimer of an adult and a mimer of a child. Okay, Shmuel Amar, Divrei Meir. Shmuel says in the words of Rei Meir, also bias ben teisha short of yom echad Kimaimer Begodol. Now, there's a subtle nuance of difference here. Till now, the Yerushalmi seem to hold that the bia of a cotton works the rice, and if the question was the rice of the Maimer also should work, whatever it works, even without das. But now Shmuel is saying really asu, right? That even the bia of a 9-year-old is not really the raisa, but rather, what does the word asu mean? They made it. Who made it? Rabbanan. So that means the bia of a 9-year-old is also the Rabbanan. Okay, so it's a difference between the first possibility, second possibility. According to the first possibility, the bia of a 9-year-old to create yibum is the raisa. And the question is how we play mimer off of that. Now we're assuming that even the bia is the Rabbanan, right? Kamad Atamar Asu. They made the Kavasa. Now let's say like this: Kavasa nases chalitza ben tesha shanim via mecha get begodo. Let's say the chalitza of a 9-year-old is like the get by an adult, right? And let's say everything takes place on miniature without das. So therefore, just like the marriage is contract without das, so too the divorce should be contracted without das, right? It's a very strange concept, but that's what Gemara is asking as a debating point, right? The kavasa nasis chalitzas ben tesha shani v'yamecha could get begodo. Let's say, well, you get by the adult, let it work. Rabban Amrei, boo! They said, nah! Ain't chalitzas ben tesha shani v'yamecha klum. Chalitzas 9-year-old, they give me a break. This is meaningless. The lama su bias ben tesha shani v'yamecha kamar begodo. Why did they say that? Even the bia of a 9-year-old kid is like Maimer by an adult. Because there's precedent. The bia of a gadol requires whether there's das or not. So therefore they said, you know what? Let's say also the bia of a cotton, which has no das, requires as well. However, what do you want to say? Nasis, chalitza, bentesha, shonim, yomecha could get begadol. You want to go even so far as to say that the chalitza of a 9-year-old is like a get by an adult. There's no comparison. Chalitza begadol ain't a pater soli das. Even the chalitza by a gadol only exempts if there's das, right? There has to be das. So certainly here too the same thing. You must always have das in order to affect a chalitza, right? And the chalitza is not going to work by a child who's under 9 years old, so 13 years old. So obviously, even though he can make ibum, what he cannot make is chalitza. Okay? Halacha zayin. Cholatz v'cholatz, cholatz v'osa maimer, the chalitza, well, it's cholatz v'cholatz, the chalitza is another chalitza. Cholatz or the chalitza osa maimer, then the maimer, no son get the wall, then they gave a get, and then the bia, it's a sick dude, or or it did bia and then another bia. Or Bav at Maimer, it did bia and then I did Maimer. No, son, get the cholatz, he gave again, and then the chalitza, and chalitza klum. Again, after chalitza, there's nothing. Ben yom mechel shvei Yevamos, where there's 1 yom, 2 Yevamos, or ben shtei Yevamos achos, or 2 Yevamos to 1 yom, there's nothing after chalitza. Cholatz was a Maimer. In chalitza, then Maimer. Nasan get ubal, right? Chalitza, then Maimer, then gave a get, then did bia. Okay? All 4.
Didn't we have this already?
Not all 4. Not all 4.
Is it the same woman or 4?
No, either or. Doesn't matter. Could be. Chalitza, Maimer, has to get a ball, or ball, or did bia. And then also Maimer, so doesn't get, and then gave a get for Chalitza. Einach chalitza klum. After chalitza, there's nothing. Ben b'tchila, ben b'etzer, so whenever it occurs in the process, it puts a stop. After that, nothing. I mean, afterwards you might still be picking up the pieces, but you can't generate any new problems. So wherever chalitza occurs, whether it's the beginning, the end, or the middle, that's when the generation problem stops. You move into problem-solving mode once you hit that stage. Okay? So, Habila. Now here we didn't talk about the bia till now. The bia is the first thing done, as it should be. Then that's really a showstopper. After the bia, there's nothing else to be done, right? Rabbi Nechemia Omer, Nechemia says echa bula ve'echa chalutza. Rabbi Nechemia says both the woman who had relations previously, or a chalutza Ben Mechil Ben Emtza Ben Masof. Oh, what am I trying to say there? One second. I'll try to. No, it should be Be'ila and Chalitza. I know why it's Be'ila and Chalitza. So Echad Be'ila, Echad Chalitza, whether it's Be'ila or Chalitza, Ben Mechil Ben Emtza. So whether the beginning, the end, or the middle. Ein achrei klum, there's nothing to be said afterwards. Meaning that you don't have to, like we said before, you don't have to look for, you have no more problems attributed after, even not just the chalitza, but also, according to him, after B as well. So Talmud, so then they said a very interesting thing, I guess, in Bavel. They said, according to Yerushalmi comes out that the bia, even if it's possible, because it's a bia after after other procedures, right? So bia after other procedures is called the bia psula, and really, according to Rabbanan, it creates more headaches. But here, actually, he's saying that a bia psula patters you altogether. Okay?
Patters you from what?
Well, patters the Yevamos, patters you from, no, not the Yevamos. Patters all the additional things, stages afterwards. In other words, once you did bia, let's say, in the middle, you did a get, then a chalitza, then a bia. And then you did another get and another chalitza. So again, the chalitza after bia made no difference anymore. That's what it means, ein achar bia klum. No matter where the process occurs. The Mishnah, Tanakama didn't hold that way. Tanakama held chalitza, no matter where it occurs, stops the process. But he's adding, Menachem is adding also bia.
In addition to.
That's right. And that means, even if it's a bia psula, that means it's a bia after a get, let's say, which shouldn't have an effect. Nonetheless, it does have the effect of stopping any additional problems from occurring.
So then you wouldn't need chalitza after the bia.
After bia. Right. You might need chalitza for something which preceded, though. But let's say you gave a get and then did bia, so you might need a get for your original zika. Right? Something like that. I'm not sure if I'm right about that because I'm not making the cheshbon properly. But in these cases, when we're in Mishnah, it's not necessary. You're probably right. Probably in all cases like that. I'm just not going to visualize that kind of thing. Okay. So it says the Gemara, Tamar, again, there they said, even if it's a be psula, it's after Gerushin or something, it batters. Al-daiti Rabbanan Tamon, but according to the rabbis over there in Bavel, Bia ben shulachar maimer ben shulachar get poteris. Bia, whether it's after maimer or after get, poteris means there's no more headache after that. Al daitin Rabbanan Da'ach, however, according to rabbis in Eretz Yisrael, it's not true. Bia shulachar maimer poteris. The bia comes first, of course, and even if it comes after maimer, it exempts. Why? Because actually, the Ritbaz explains, because then the mimer is seen as leading up to the bia, right? And it's not a contradiction to the mimer. So therefore, that bia is not considered to be a bia psula, at least not completely. But, however, shila achar get ain't a poteris. If the bia is after a get, it doesn't exempt you from problems afterwards, according to Rabbanim, because it's a bia psula, and a bia psula does not exempt you from problems. Again, the word poteris here doesn't mean pater up the yavam, but pater you up from any artificial problems that you create upon yourself afterwards. So if you, according to Rabbanan and Bavel, regardless of when the bia occurs, after the bia, nothing can go wrong anymore. You're just picking up pieces after bia. According to Rabbanan and Eretz Yisrael, even after bia, you might still become more problems. When the bia itself was a bia psula, because the bia itself followed some sort of get or something like that.
It's almost like you're rewarding the person for doing bia, which
that's what Yibum's about.
Yeah, but
that's the mitzvah.
This wasn't bia in the shame Yibum.
Okay, so that's why we don't do it anymore. But he is doing the mitzvah that he can't say he's doing the mitzvah, right? So it says the Gemara, "V'lo shama da am Rabbi Hila b'shem Rabbi Yochanan." They didn't hear that which Rabbi Hila said named Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Chem, Rabbi Shim, Rabbi Yishmael, Amud Avrech. They also said the same thing. The time we learned Sholosh Yevamos, 3 Yevamos. Now here we have to change the gears a little bit. I'll let you know, obviously. Sholosh Yevamos, you have 3 Yevamos. Oh, this tape. Tape never ends. Well, we've learned very quickly today. Okay. Let's go as quickly as every night. Chick chock, we'll catch up. You have three Yevamos for one Yavam. Okay? Also, Maimer Bazu. He did Maimer to one. Ubalazu, he did Bia to the other. Now, the next should be V'chazer V'aser Maimer L'Shlish. It's not Renos on Get, as it says here. So he did Maimer, Bia, Maimer. Okay? This is all based on the Tosefta. That's where the other Gersa applies. So you have Maimer, Get, the Maimer, Bia, Maimer. So Rechem, it says, Harishona Tzricha Get. The first Maimer, she needs a Get, right? And then take out the word Chalitza. It's a mistake, because already, is that a mistake?
It's good.
No, it's correct. No, take it out. The Shai Torah still takes it out. Remember the Seder Dvorim. He did a Maimer, then a Bia, then another Maimer, right? So for the first Maimer, he needs a Get. But after that, according to Menachemi, what came next? Bia. What's Menachemi's status of the sheet about Bia, even if it's in the middle? Patters. That's what you did. That's what you have to do. Tzricha Get, and take out the word Chalitza. Ve'en lachar Bia klum. Right? Makes sense. The first woman he has to give a Get to. The second woman he already did Bia on, right? So then the third woman he can just ignore, right? He has to give a Get to the second woman, but the third woman he can't ignore. Right? Kavachomer. It's a kavachomer. My chalitza, she posol post losa mi posol tominakuna. Chalitza renders woman unfit. Well, renders somebody unfit to be a kohen. Actually, the woman, she's not allowed to be a kohenes anymore, right? Or marry a kohenes, and that's true. And here too, the change of girsa. Chalitza achar maimer, right? So if chalitza renders you unfit from the kuna, so chalitza after maimer and achrei klum. Chalitza being such a powerful tool, nothing comes afterwards. I mean, that stops all other tools from functioning, right? Certainly, if that's the case, if that's true about chalitza, which is a low thing, a base thing, right? And the proof of that is that it corrupts her from guna, right? Bia, which is a loftier tool, for reasons I don't fully understand, but because it doesn't pass her from guna, right?
Well, if it's Bia with a Zor, and the question is he a Zor or not when he's doing the Bia?
That's true, but here it's not a Zor, because in the first one I did Maimer. So I guess according to Payne, that Maimer is like a Mikzas Kinin. So it's not a Zor. Okay, according to Reb Shimon again, of course, Payne's headaches, right? So here we're saying that if by, this is Rabbi Menachem's logic, if Chalitza, which passes from Kuna, Achar Chalitza, there's nothing, right? Whatever happens later on in the process, we just ignore. Bia Shipa, She'enabas from Kuna, Bia, which is superior, that it doesn't render not fit for Kuna. So, here should be, Be'ila Achar Maimer, not after Chalitza. Be'ila after Maimer, Eino Din Shlo Yachrei Klum, there should be nothing after that. That's in Menachem Shita. Instead of Rabban, just say Chacham say also be Krovo Shloishtar. Chacham say no, Bia Psula doesn't do any good, and therefore, if you did Maimer, then Bia, then Maimer, you have to take into account the last Maimer. So that's the case. In this case, what do you need? Figure out before you see inside. What do you need? Did Maimer, Bia, Maimer. And according to Rabbanan, Yesh Achar Bia Klum, because it's a Bia Psula, it came after Maimer. So what do you need in this case? Chalitza, but what else do you need? How many?
I guess 3.
3. Very good, right. According to Rabbi Nechem, you never get up to 3, because after the Bia cuts it off, right? But with Rabbi Chachamim, it doesn't, right? Chachamim also because Shloshon, you're married, theoretically married to all 3. You're forbidden to marry any of the relatives. And it requires 3 gitin for chalitza, lachzmin, chalitza to one of them. Okay? I'd love to go further, but I didn't prepare any further. So I guess we'll have to stop here for tonight.